Hi, I'm Haley Young, and I'm a criminal justice major at Florida International University. The three expert witnesses I have examined today have demonstrated good etiquette during the cross-examination, but there were instances where some of them missed some of the most important points: avoiding ammunition, of not avoiding questions, and always actively listening. The first expert, Larry McCann, maintained good eye contact and seemed to be actively listening, but he made the mistake of not thoroughly reviewing the case before taking the stand. The second expert, Dr. White, demonstrated the importance of asking for clarity, but he avoided the questions after and didn't allow the prosecution to move on. The final expert witness, Dr. Robert Waldman, did a good job of asking for clarification as well, but not only did he avoid the questions, but he became quite hostile. Although the expectations in the courtroom vary from jurisdiction or state to state, some things remain the same. An expert witness should be professional and present themselves with confidence and clarity. What an expert should not do is provide anything the cross-examiner can use against them. This would be ammunition, anything that can be used against them. An expert should always tell the truth and never be evasive, because it can leave an impression on the jury and it can take away all credibility. The last thing that is important to remember is to be actively listening for wordplay and compound questions. This is the first expert, Larry McCann. Real quick, he demonstrates to be actively listening. He has good eye contact and animated expression, but he does have a doubtable demonstration, and he does miss the reports.
Supposed to be a big help to Levi Chavez's defense, but
he even tried to demonstrate how she could have fired the gun, then unseated the magazine, something the state's experts testified she would not be able to do. But his demonstration backfired more than once. The blunder drew a laugh from Tara's family, and the prosecution let the flop speak for itself. But they hammered away at some of McCann's other testimony.
If someone's asleep, there's going to be no sign of a struggle.
If someone's asleep and this happens to them, it would have to be pretty quick.
Prior to that statement, McCann told the jury it takes less than a fraction of a second to pull a trigger. The state claims Tara was asleep when Levi shot her once in the mouth with his department-issued gun back in October 2007, then staged it to look like a suicide.
If someone is asleep and you try and jam a gun in their mouth, I would expect to see at least some external injuries to her lips.
And did you know that the OMI said very specifically that there are some injuries to their lips?
McCann.
So Larry McCann makes a very colorful example of the do's and don'ts of cross-examination. He has good animation, good eye contact throughout his testimony, and portrays confidence and qualifications. Ultimately, though, he disproved himself with that demonstration. It took him multiple attempts. It just didn't look good. A demonstration should only be used if it strengthens the case. His intentions were good. If it had worked, it would have helped the jury. His second mistake was not doing his research beforehand. He made his calculations partially based on the fact that there were no lip injuries, but there were in fact lip injuries. Believability begins with becoming familiar with the case and providing a reliable and supportable conclusion. The second expert, Dr. White, real quick. He shows signs of asking for clarification, and he seems to be actively listening and engaged, but he does answer more than tends to be asked, and he avoids multiple questions or does not give a straight answer.
Dr. White, to date, how much have you been paid by the defense for your involvement in this case?
I think I was told I've been paid about $11,000. I got a check recently, which has not been deposited as yet.
And And how much do you expect to be paid upon completion of all your work in this case?
I guess if they have money, I think they have limited financial resources.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sustained. The
Motion.
answer is stricken. Disregard. Listen carefully to the question. You may ask it, please.
How much do you expect to be paid in total upon completion of your involvement in this case?
That's taken ambiguous regarding expectations versus actuality.
Well, I'm gonna sustain the objection to the characterization expect to be paid. I think you can rephrase the question.
How much do you expect to receive in compensation for your involvement in this case?
The same question.
Sustained.
You've received, you have an agreement to receive payment following your testimony in this case?
No, I do not.
Is it your testimony under oath that the only money you're
So Dr. White showed interest and he waited for clarification. The first question was very long and generic, and he had every right to wait for better wording. The problem came after the judge had given him the explanation. He started to sway in his seat and he started to give estimations instead of a straightforward answer. Estimations and responses that are considered on the fence make a witness look unprepared and not credible. The same goes for nervous tics, such as swaying in his seat. White failed to avoid ammunition, and the prosecution could not move on. And then this is the third and final expert, Dr. Robert Waldman. He does not have a strong start.
and you also do the dialysis work?
I do.
Is that full-time?
What do you mean by full-time?
Well, it typically means 40 hours a week, something like that.
I wish I worked 40 hours a week. And so does my family.
So the question's still out there. Do you work?
I work a great deal of hours every week.
Okay, how many hours do you work in dialysis?
And, you know, I'm not being glib, but the real answer is I see every patient every week, and I work as long as I need to. It's variable. Sometimes it's many, many hours. Sometimes it's less hours.
Approximately how many hours a week do you work in dialysis?
I don't know. I couldn't quantify. I believe you're exactly correct. Experience is really important.
And from the Cliffside Malibu website, where your picture is posted, it states, as is true of any disease, addiction can only be overcome with intensive medical specialized care.
Which is provided at Cliffside Malibu, not by Dr. Waldman all the time.
But you agree with that assessment?
I think it's a great assessment.
And you, of course, in your experience, have had patients come to you that had previously received subpar or incompetent addiction care, and then came to you and you were able to help them, correct?
Your words, sir, not mine.
I'm sorry, are you gonna?
I have no answer. I think I never made such statement.
I didn't ask you if you made that statement. I'm asking you a question.
No, you're actually putting the words in my mouth. Would you?
Your Honor, would the court
rephrase
direct the witness to answer the question?
Thank you. Cross-examination is, in essence, putting words.
So the final expert, Dr. Waldman, he made sure to ask for clarification. He started off exerting confidence. On the other hand, he became hostile and defensive during his examination. He started with the joke that brought silence, and then he accused the prosecution of putting words into his mouth because he had not really been listening to the question entirely. He took too long to provide a straight answer and rarely answered each question in their entirety. The hostility provided the ammunition and encouraged the prosecution to pry even more in repeating the same kind of question over and over. He made himself look suspicious. His tone and body language are prime examples of what not to do. The jury notices and they take they make their own opinions about the witness. An expert witness needs to treat their demeanor with care.